Here's a quick video here on biasing the Engl Savage 120. So I've got this thing pulled out of the chassis here. You want to kind of be careful taking it out. You can see I kind of have it propped up here, and I've got my Eurotubes bias probe. I've got it attached here, and it's hooked onto one of these 6550 tubes, and got to make sure you have a speaker load. So I've got my 8 ohm speaker load here hooked to my 212 Engl cab right now, and I just finished biasing this thing, but I want to show you kind of where the bias pot is on it and kind of what this thing reads. If I power this thing on, what you want to do is power it on initially, and you've kind of you've got kind of your plate current here on the bias probe, and then your DC plate volts, and it'll be pretty low at first until you turn it on standby. So what you want to do is wait about 5 seconds or so and get a good reading on it. Now, Engls, they bias their amps cold. That's how they come from the factory, and there's not much you can kind of do about that unless you modify the bias resistor in here. So after that, you turn it off standby. And you kind of hear I have this thing cranked up a bit. Let me turn the master volume down on it. Then immediately on our bias probe, we can kind of see the plate voltage goes up to about 558 or so. And this is already going up on the plate current, about 34.5, well, 34.4 at the moment. But what I did is I biased this just a minute ago at 37. I liked the way it sounded. And as these tubes heat up, that plate current is going to go up a bit. Now I like the way this sounds, kind of where I have it, because I've already plugged in my guitar and played it by ear. But you can see the bias pot on this thing is in here, and you can see this. Let me get a flashlight here so you can see it a little bit better. There's a little hole right here, if you can see that, next to these capacitors. Great, they put them next to these caps. Now you don't want to touch any of this shit with your hands. It's highly dangerous. So you always want to make sure that you have everything kind of secured here, and you never want to touch any of these capacitors. But you want to get an electrician's screwdriver, and then you'll want to slowly turn that bias pot up here and into place. Now once you do that and adjust it, you can go ahead and plug in your guitar and kind of play it to where it sounds. Now the typical formula for the biasing, any amps, and these are 6552s, which are Sovtex, and they're rated typically around 42 watts plate dissipation. You want to take that 42, divide it by your plate voltage, which would be the 559, 558 here, and then multiply that by 0.7, which will kind of give you about 70% dissipation on the amp. Typically though, like I said, Engl bias is cold, so we're working with about, roughly 50%, a little bit higher here, and that kind of gives it a nice tight sound, gives me plenty enough headroom. I did have it where I put it at 41 was kind of the max that I was able to adjust the voltage. I think the optimal rating for a Savage is between 35 and 43 is kind of what Engl told me. So I found a nice sweet spot around 37 or so that I liked. So that's kind of where I put it. And you can see our plate currents kind of going up there to around 37 where I adjusted it. So everything's pretty stable on this. I'm liking where it's at, but that's my short video on biasing the Engl Savage. After that, you just want to go ahead and turn everything off, let it cool down, and put it back into the chassis. So that's that.